first presenter is Miss Kabukeinamala Ditoga, a Masters by Research student in Agriculture at the Fiji National University.
Okay, just to begin with, I am Kabukeinamala Ditoga, right from Fiji, and first I need to acknowledge, recognize the owner of the land in which this conference is being held, and I also need to recognize me as a Fiji Indigenous, and also presenting a study that I did among the Fiji indigenous population here in Fiji. And just to begin with, my slide is open. My topic is on more than just the manual, lessons learned from adapting the family farm team teaching resource in the indigenous Fijian context. Again, I was introduced. I am a student with a Master by Research here at Fiji National University. And I'm working with my two supervisors and just give out some preliminary finding in terms of a piece of my study within the family farm team. So a brief background on this study. Food security issues and here all over the world, also in the Pacific and in Fiji, is found complex and contested and mostly affecting the vulnerable or the marginalized groups in societies. As projected by FAO to achieve a state of food security in 2050. So a similar context is presented here, that we need to engage our subsistence farmers for food security, which is found to be a priority in the Pacific and also in Fiji. Just a brief background from Fiji, subsistence farming is found to be a livelihood for most rural dwellers, and most of our rural dwellers here in Fiji are the indigenous population, comprises 45% of our population. And most of this Fiji indigenous population, they have access to land based on inheritance. Even though they have access to land, the state of food and nutrition security in the population is being compromised. So this has resulted in a poor health outcomes of the rural indigenous Fijian population. Just bring to light some of the health status of the population here in Fiji. Again, this is based on some of the reports or survey that's been done. Food poverty is on the rise and mostly prevalent among our rural population. So most of our rural population are the indigenous population. And it affects mostly the vulnerable in the population. So these include women, children, and also those living below the poverty line. And with that, attached with the poverty, other nutritional issues like nutritional anemia and obesity, stunting in children, and also with non-communicable diseases. So the objective of this piece of work is to utilize the indigenous Fijian version of the PNG FFT manual, which is Module 2 and Module 3, named in the Fijian context as Te Teitei, ni Matawawale Bola ni Dhaka, to train the subsistence farmers and also to identify factors that we can adapt the training resource and use by agencies that works in our rural population in Fiji. So a brief highlight in terms of what is a family farm team program. FFT is a community program aimed to mostly implemented in the Pacific Island countries. With that, it started in Papua New Guinea and also have worked in Solomon Islands in terms of running FFT projects. So what this project is about, it provides a series of workshops and family activities that will enable the family to work as a team and to develop their agriculture activities. So the FFT program utilizes a participatory type of approach with experiential learning. It deals with collaboration and sharing of knowledge among the communities. And the training, the form of training that's been carried out with the population is usually involve group activities where they've been given opportunities to discuss. They're given other opportunities as learning kind of activities to share whatever knowledge that they have in terms of farming in the community. So far, this slide has bring to just in view of what has been done so far about FFT in the Pacific. So FFT started in 2016 in Papua New Guinea, and it was initiated by the lead author of FFT, Professor Pamphilon. And that the picture on my right indicate how that training involves. So a group of women sharing and discussing in terms of how they can help each other in terms of farming. And the second picture in the middle is what happens in Solomon Islands. And it include presentation and other work that's been done in terms of creating that environment of training or of learning among the facilitators and also the participants. So in Solomon Island is where Professor Hill, who is also one of my supervisor and is part of this writing in terms of this abstract. And the last training was conducted here in Fiji, where this study is trying to further work on. And this involved, the training was conducted in 2022, mostly because it was during the COVID-19. So it was mostly an online form of training. And in terms of that, there was an outcome of this training where they developed the Fiji Indigenous FFT manual. So on this slide is how the manual looks like that has been developed so far. So the manual has 4 modules. Looking at the modules for the purpose of this study, mostly focusing on module 2, planning your family farm as a family team, and module 3, which is on feeding your family farm team. So far, these are the work that's been done already. There is a manual for PNG. There is a manual for Solomon Island. It's been contextualized to the island setting. And the last one was a brief overview in terms of what's been done in Fiji in the year 2022. So again, it's coming down to this study, which was conducted in Fiji. This is like a follow-up in terms of the training that was conducted by Professor Pamphila in 2022. And we did the FFT training with a trainer that was trained in 2022. I am a student investigator. I also work as a dietitian by profession and also do teaching here at FNU. And we utilizes the manual, which has already been developed, Teiteni Matabubale, Olen Vakavaka, and we have supplemented some nutrition and home gardening resources within this manual that's already been developed. So the 2 manual that will be focus of the study is module 2, planning a family farm as a family team, which is like a gardening module. And module 3, which is on feeding your family farm team, is mostly focusing on nutrition. Brief methodology of this study, we use semi-structured interviews. And on my right is the interview questions. And our study participant, we did purposive sampling method, and we selected the leaders who are mostly involved in rural food system. And these include women who leads the smallholder group or village leader or any agriculture officers that works in this locality. So this study was approved by the FNU Research Ethics Committee, and we also coordinate with the Ministry of Ditoga Affairs, or the ministry that looks after the indigenous population, to get approval to conduct this training. So analysis were mostly in vivo inductive thematic analysis. Moving further in terms of the finding, few of the finding that I'll just be highlighting in this slide. One is in terms of the language of instruction. So since we're using the manual in the indigenous Fijian context with a Bowen dialect, which is a common dialect that we have in Fiji, most of the participants, they feel from the agriculture officer's perspective is they like the idea that's been translated and that could be understood by those at the village level. So an overview of that is that from the technical perspective, they found the manual in the language that's been used to be adaptive, which enhances usability and the effectiveness of the manual to be used. Still on the language of instruction from the view of the women groups leader coming from the community level. So also the perspective is that the manual and the resources suits the level of knowledge. And in addition with that is the instructor, the one who the two conducting the training were both Fiji indigenous trainer. So this more added more, like strengthens comprehension and support more effective learning within the training. In terms of the manual, the overall way in which the manual is presented, you can look on the right of this slide. That's how the manual looks like here that's been developed. So most of the participants, both from the technical view of a senior agriculture officer and at the community level, they think that more further works that needs to be done to make this more attractive, to make this more presentable to the people that we are targeting. In addition, in terms of the two modules, we ask module 2, which is on training them in terms of farming, and module 3 was on nutrition. So in terms of the information on farming that was available in the manual, the view from the community level is that they already know most of the things that was in the manual, and most of them have been doing it. But some of the new participants, they found this new knowledge, and it is useful as a reference. So in this situation, the manual serves two purposes. One, it reinforces existing knowledge with those experienced women who are doing farming, and introduces new knowledge to those that are coming new in terms of the community. Also in terms of farming, looking at it from the perspective of the agriculture officer, there was a bit of contradictory view from here in terms of the knowledge that from the module 2, she found there were gaps in the training, and there is a need to revisit and the monitoring in terms of how this has progressed. So I perceive this as the module 2 was is inadequate, and the perspective highlights the critical role of extension officers who are looking after these people, or project leaders who are working with these communities in terms of how they can enhance a tool for learning that best suits the community and with the right information. The information on nutrition, this is where I come in terms of, as a student also with my expertise in terms of nutrition here in Fiji. We have some additional components, which I will add in the next slide. So one of the comments, the views that come from here in terms of the information that was available on nutrition, they found it as a tool. It can be a nutrition advocacy tool that meets the target our indigenous population and meets also their level of learning. So it makes them aware of the healthy local foods that they have, and also how they can consume and make nutritious meals for themselves. So this is what we added on in terms of what we have here in Fiji. We have on your right is where our food charts comes in. These are available with our Ministry of Health. We try to incorporate these in terms of the manual. So in the food charts, we have most of our local foods, and it highlights our local foods in terms of the content with iron in 100 grams of the serves. Thus, this was enlightening to most of our participants. They get to really view the nutritive values of all our own local foods and what it contains, which can also improve their health. And that brings me to the end of this brief presentation. Some of the conclusion that we can gather from this piece of finding is that some of the adaptation factors that we need to look at to further progress this work is that we need to use the language of instruction. It's very important to keep it as Indigenous Fijian with a Bowen dialect that is very informative, and improve on the booklet itself, the pictures and other items that can be added to make it more attractive and presented to our communities. And the third point is the resources. We will need to add in more information in terms of the value of our local traditional foods. And lastly is the trainers. So we're looking at trainers that will better facilitate the knowledge of those local instructors, looking at the indigenous instructors who have expertise knowledge in terms of agriculture and nutrition. Thank you.